Hey friends, I just revisited the 1951 classic, The Thing from Another World. Yes, we're going way back, and thought I'd share 12 weird but true facts about it that I found interesting. So, grab a drink, could be your iced coffee, get comfy, here's what I think you'll like. 1. The title almost got confused. You won't believe this, but the film almost ended up being called Just the Thing. Sounds simple, right? But here's the funny part. There was this super popular novelty song at the time called The Thing by Phil Harris. It was all over the radio in 1950 and people loved it. The song was a light-hearted, funny tune about a mysterious box found on the beach. The filmmakers realized if they kept the same title, folks might show up expecting a silly comedy instead of a scary sci-fi thriller. So they added From Another World to make it clear this wasn't some musical about a box. It was about an alien menace from space. Smart move, right? Can you imagine the audience reaction if they went in expecting laughs and got blood-drinking alien plants instead? 2. The big mystery. Who actually directed it? Okay, this one's a classic bit of Hollywood gossip. Officially, the director of The Thing from Another World is Christian Nyby. But here's the thing. A lot of people, including actors who worked on the film, claim that producer Howard Hawks, yes, that Howard Hawks, the guy behind His Girl Friday and The Big Sleep, was the real creative force on set. Hawks had such a distinct style, fast-paced dialogue, strong characters, and a sort of manly camaraderie vibe, and all of that shows up here. Nyby always insisted he directed it himself, but he did admit he learned a lot from Hawks. So, maybe it was a partnership? Still, you can't help but feel Hawks's fingerprints all over this one. What do you think? Was it Nyby's movie, or Hawks quietly pulling the strings? 3. The monster was a future TV cowboy. Now, here's a fun one. The actor behind the terrifying alien thing was none other than James Arness. If that name sounds familiar, it's because he went on to become the legendary Marshal Matt Dillon on the long-running TV series Gunsmoke. Yeah. The tall, rugged cowboy who brought justice to the Wild West was once a blood-sucking alien plant monster. What's wild is that Arness was reportedly embarrassed by the role. He thought the monster makeup made him look ridiculous, so much so that he skipped the premiere. Later in his career, when he became a big TV star, people would tease him about it. Can you imagine? From alien invader to lawman legend. Talk about a career jump. 4. The alien isn't what you'd expect. Here's where it gets weird. The alien in this movie isn't your typical bug-eyed Martian. Nope, this creature is actually a plant. A giant, humanoid, blood-drinking vegetable. The scientists in the movie even say no arteries, no bones. Like a plant. Pretty wild for 1951, right? The idea was that life on other planets might evolve differently. Maybe silicon or vegetable-based instead of animal-based. It's kind of a creepy concept, especially when they discover it reproduces by growing seed pods. Imagine being chased by a plant that wants your blood for fertilizer. You have to hand it to them. That's an original take on an alien invader. 5. Filmed in a real freezer. When they said it was cold on set, they meant really cold. To make the Arctic setting feel authentic, some of the interior base scenes were filmed inside an actual Los Angeles ice storage facility. The temperature inside that place was freezing, literally below zero. The actors could see their breath in every scene, and their discomfort was totally real. You can tell that kind of realism wasn't faked. Instead of fancy digital effects or fake snow, they just tossed the cast into a meat locker and called it a day. Old Hollywood was wild like that. No CGI, just grit and shivering actors trying not to ruin the take. 6. The film inspired future sci-fi greats. This movie didn't just make an impact in the 1950s, it laid the groundwork for decades of sci-fi horror. Its influence is all over John Carpenter's 1982 remake The Thing, which took the paranoia and body horror aspects to a whole new level. In fact, Carpenter loved the original so much that he even used a similar opening title sequence, those glowing, burning letters revealing the title through smoke. Pretty cool homage, right? You can really see how the DNA of this 1951 classic runs through later films like Alien, Predator, and even The X-Files. It all started with this chilly black and white gem. 7. You barely see the monster on purpose. One of the coolest choices in this film is how little we actually see of the thing. The director, or Hawks, depending who you believe, decided that keeping the monster mostly hidden in the shadows made it way scarier. And it works. The less you see, the more your imagination fills in the gaps. They used quick flashes, silhouettes, and clever lighting to make the creature feel mysterious and dangerous. In fact, if you watch closely, the monster barely has a few minutes of screen time. But because of the tension and build-up, it feels like it's everywhere. That's the power of suggestion, something modern horror sometimes forgets. 8. The story was toned down from the book. The movie is based on a 1938 novella called Who Goes There? By John W. Campbell, Jr., which was a lot darker and more psychological. In the book, the alien can imitate humans perfectly, leading to paranoia and mistrust among the crew. Sounds familiar, right? That's because John Carpenter's 1982 version sticks much closer to that original story. But back in 1951, they simplified the idea. Instead of a shape-shifting imposter, we got one big scary alien plant. The tension is still there, but it's more straightforward. Sometimes you can tell they played it safe for the era, but honestly, it still works as a tight, suspenseful adventure. 9. It's officially a piece of film history. Here's a cool fact. The Thing from Another World was added to the U.S. National Film Registry in 2001. That means it's considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Basically, the Library of Congress said, yeah, this movie deserves to be preserved forever. Not bad for a 1950s sci-fi flick about a killer space vegetable, huh? It's kind of poetic that a movie once seen as just another monster film has become a recognized classic that influenced generations of filmmakers. 10. Filming locations were a clever illusion. So, while the movie takes place in the Arctic, they didn't actually film anywhere near the North Pole. Most of the outdoor snowy shots were done in Montana's Glacier National Park, which is about as close as you can get without freezing to death. They also mixed those shots with indoor freezer scenes filmed in California. The combination works surprisingly well. You really buy into the icy isolation. It's funny how filmmakers back then could create a convincing frozen wasteland without green screens or fancy effects. Just real snow, clever editing, and brave actors. You gotta respect that old-school craft. 11. It made serious box office money. For a black-and-white sci-fi movie in 1951, The Thing from Another World did really well at the box office. It earned around $1.95 million in US and Canadian rentals, which was big for its time, especially for a genre that was still finding its footing. Audiences loved the tension, the setting, and the snappy dialogue. It proved that sci-fi wasn't just for kids. Adults could be scared and entertained too. You could say this movie helped open the door for all those great 1950s creature features that followed, like The Day the Earth Stood Still and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. 12. The dialogue feels more like a western than horror. One of the things I really love about this movie is how natural the characters feel. They're tough, sarcastic, and constantly ribbing each other, kind of like a crew of cowboys stuck in a frozen outpost. That's pure Howard Hawks influence. The overlapping dialogue, the fast banter, the strong female character Margaret Sheridan as Nikki. All classic Hawks trademarks. The result is a movie that feels surprisingly alive and human even when an alien's trying to kill everyone. It's not just a horror movie, it's a story about teamwork, bravery, and survival. And honestly, those moments of humor make the scary parts hit even harder. It's that mix that keeps it so rewatchable. So here's what I think overall. The Thing from Another World might not have today's special effects, but it's got heart, charm, and atmosphere. You can feel the cold, the fear, and even the camaraderie. And for a movie that's over 70 years old, it still holds up surprisingly well. If you haven't seen it yet, trust me, it's worth a watch. And there you go, 12 weird facts about Thing from Another World. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more behind-the-scenes stories from classic Hollywood.